What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the TenSevenMMA MMA Show with me, Huzaifa, and your boy, Justin Guitar Hero James, the real one, the real fighter. And Justin, how you doing? What's going down? What went down this weekend with you in Montana?
Yeah, man, in Montana for Fusion Fight League, doing some commentary, trying to get my boy in there. When I refer to my boy, I'm talking about you, man. Pitched you to the promoter, and it looks like they're going to have you out in June, man. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's like an early birthday present. I cannot wait. Yeah, that's so dope. So,
hey, before we get started, I saw some tragic news online today. Are you familiar with what happened with Francis Ngannou?
No.
So Fight Wave just posted on it. I thought it was a spoof because I haven't seen much on it. But Fight Wave, they're a really big follower. It's crazy because before I got to the UFC, I was one of their first hosts. They had like 200 followers. Now they're over 100,000 followers. So I do respect them as a growing platform. It's called Fight Wave. But they came out, and I guess this morning, details aren't released, but Francis Ngannou's 18-month-old baby passed away today. I don't know particulars on it. It hasn't been talked about in the gym. I just saw it on Instagram as we're about to start our show here. So, to my teammate, to my team, I just want to give a big shout out and condolences to Francis and family.
Yeah, I did not hear that. I didn't know he was a father. Yeah, I just pulled up an article. I had no clue. It's right here. It's confirmed on TMZ Sports, and TMZ almost never gets anything wrong. So this probably is correct. So look what he says. Too soon to leave, but yet he's gone. He said, "My little boy, my mate, my partner, Colby, was full of life and joy. Now he's laying without life. Oh God." He said, "I shouted his name over and over, but he's not responding." Okay. Ngannou added Colby, made him his best self, and now he's lost without him. Okay. I did not know this. God, that is awful. All right. Well, our condolences go out. Obviously, I did not know this. I'm being told this right now live, and that is super. Yeah. It's basically the worst tragedy in the world is seeing your kid. And I'm not a father. You are. I can only imagine. You can probably empathize much better, but that is probably the greatest fear of every parent is their child passing while they're young or alive or whatever. So, man, all the fight stuff aside, yeah, our condolences go out, and that is super tragic. Okay, so let's man, all right, let's get into it. There's actually a lot of fight news, believe it or not, this weekend, even though we didn't really have a big UFC like pay-per-view UFC event. We got one this weekend in Brazil. So that's happening, but there was a huge event that happened, a BKFC event, and there's also some other BKFC news that we're going to talk about, but it's pretty crazy. Mike Perry went in and fought Thiago Alves, and he won. And Thiago Alves is, okay, granted he's a UFC fighter and a former MMA fighter, but he was BKFC champ, and Mike Perry made pretty short work of him. I don't know if you saw the fighter. I mean, it was a quick fight. Man, BKFC is dope. Like, the thing of if you compare it to regular boxing, I did want to ask you about this actually too. And I'm gonna play a little clip in a second here from the press conference. Dude, Mike Perry is just a G, dude. He's so funny, and it's so amazing that he's found an area where he can just dominate and accelerate in terms of his career because people love him, and I love hearing his press conference. I love everything about the guy, but yeah, it's super cool. And it seems that one of the things that can get frustrating with traditional boxing is the clinching, the grappling that happens. Inevitably, we saw in that recent Ryan Garcia fight that his opponent was basically shooting double legs and clinching him up, and that gets really annoying. It seems to not happen in bare knuckle boxing. The fights are just amazing. Why is that? Do you what is different about bare knuckle versus traditional boxing that it seems like there's way more action?
Well, it's being on the BKFC fan or be on the BKFC side. It's crazy, dude. This sport is freaking nuts, man. I always talk once I'm done with MMA, I do want to go over to bare knuckle and I want to try it out. Just basically just to check it off my bucket list. So, a couple guys at the gym right now are signed under bare knuckle. I got Jordan Christensen, one of my guys, not only a training partner, but a guy that coaches me. He also competes in BKFC. Let me tell you, I've cornered him in the BKFC. I've cornered Dave Elliott in the BKFC. it is fucking brutal, bro. Like these guys get fucked up. Like
Yeah.
they get fucked up so bad to a point to where as I'm watching it, I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to check this off my bucket list, man. Because even when you win, you're getting cut, your hands are getting busted up. Now, to answer your question, why does it seem like there's more action in BKFC than there is traditional boxing? It's actually very simple because we don't have gloves on. You know, when in boxing, when you get in an over-under position, you know, you get your arms caught, you know, and your opposition's holding on to your arms. Really, what they're holding on to is your gloves. You have this big, you know,
Mm.
glove, this big pad, and it's in my arm, and I can't pull it out. Does that make sense? Now, with the bare knuckle, they pull out. You can't hold,
Got it.
and not to mention, and dirty boxing, which isn't really, you know, done in traditional boxing because once they clinch, the referee's trying to break them up. BKFC, I can use a collar tie and beat your face in. I can control your head, jockey your head around, and we can grab each other and we can still fight. Kai Stewart, the 145-pound champion. He comes from, I know him really well. He's a really young kid. He's the first featherweight champion of the BKFC. He fought for Fusion a bunch. Me and him, we run across each other all the time. You know, watching Kai is a high-level wrestler, all right? So he works his feints into his BKFC. He'll be like feint, hook, cross, and then he'll clinch. But his clinch isn't to slow the pace down. It's to get in tight and to jockey. He can get his underhooks there, or he can get his collar ties. And a lot of traditional boxers, he's beating traditional boxers because they want to play range with him. When he's putting his head right on their chest and bang, 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 or he's coming like a collar, bang, bang. He's using his wrestling to fight, to box. And that's why he's having success. And I think a lot, again, a lot of traditional boxers that are transitioning over to BKFC is like, oh, these guys don't know shit about boxing. And hey, you know, to their credit, traditional boxing, you're right, but this is bare knuckle boxing. The style is different. The rules are different. I mean, they're not too different, but the clinch game is incorporated in bare knuckle. And that's where guys like Kai Stewart can come from a wrestling background and win the featherweight championship because he can translate his wrestling and his dirty boxing into bare knuckle, where traditional boxers can't always do that because they're not used to being in here clinched, working that close to their opponent. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense to me. We're gonna clip that up. That like just literally explained everything because I always had these questions and it does seem different, but I didn't know those nuances. And that that's a serious difference. That's a major difference because that essentially eliminates the thing that I find the most frustrating about boxing. Plus, it incorporates some of this grappling, but in a way that still incorporates striking. Man, so that's the key. That's the key.
We want to call it dirt. It's called dirty boxing. All right,
Okay.
we're not here, you know, being slick. We're dirty, man. We're getting in there. We're clinching. Randy Couture, one of the best dirty boxers in the history of MMA. That's where he had all his success. He never was a dynamic striker, not even at the pinnacle of his career. But he puts you on the cage. He had his Olympic level Greco-Roman wrestling and his dirty boxing. Randy Couture, my boss. The reason I came to Extreme Couture was because he has this wrestling base that he mixes it with his dirty boxing. I think the best dirty boxer in the world, or one of the best in the world right now, is Kai Stewart at 145. And then you got Mike Perry, man, who's just a bulldozer coming forward, bang, bang, bang. Mike Perry and Lorenzo Hunt, to me, and I've said this online, and guys have bashed me because, you know, Lorenzo just lost over the weekend. These are the two best bare knuckle boxers of our generation. I don't care if Lorenzo just lost. Lorenzo is going for, I think, and you can look it up, you know, as we're talking about it. Lorenzo Hunt, although he lost, dude, this guy's looking for his third division championship. I believe he's the 185-pound champ. He's the 205-pound champ. And then he was going to be the heavyweight champ, or went for it, and he lost. Again, the two best bare knuckle boxers of our generation, Mike Perry and Lorenzo Hunt. There's no questions asked. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Holy smokes, he's killing it in bare knuckle. Okay, hold on, let me share this. This is
Mike Perry's
crazy.
5-0 in bare knuckle. He was 5-8 in the UFC. Lorenzo Hunt just took his first loss in bare knuckle. Both of these guys are savages, and they deserve all our respect.
Okay, so I didn't even know much. So I heard Lorenzo Hunt in the press conference. Dude, that dude is so funny. So
I love Lorenzo Hunt, man. He is. I tossed around. You know, when I cornered Jordan, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But when I quartered Jordan, I got to witness up close and personal Joe Riggs, Lorenzo Hunt. Lorenzo comes out with this big tomato and he's eating it like an apple, which to me is fucking disgusting. And then when they square off, he just mushes it right in Joe Riggs's face, and it was this. And I got to witness it live. I mean, I was 20 feet away. And that's why I was like, dude, I like this guy. Then he goes out, he starches Joe Riggs. And I was like, oh shit. And then he fights again, starches the next guy. This guy is a savage. I think he calls himself the Juggernaut. If you guys don't know Lorenzo Hunt, you need to look him up. This guy is a savage on the mic. He's a savage in the ring. This guy, I can't say enough great things about this guy. And you know what? He comes off kind of cocky, you know, in his interviews. But he's super cool. He's super humble, and he lets those fists fly. Now you look at the second. I'm not going to say the second best because I'm not saying Lorenzo's better than Mike. I'm not saying Mike's better than Lorenzo. These guys are on an equal playing field. These guys are built different. They're built different than a traditional MMA fighter. These guys are there for the blood. They're there to break their bones. They're there to break their opponent's bones. Lorenzo Hunt and Mike Perry are the best two bare knuckle boxers of our generation.
This is a wild record if you look at this, and this is when he just lost. He got suffered a TKO loss. He had an injury, I guess, but he is 11-2. Look at that win streak. That is amazing. So yeah, and he's really awesome. So another thing,
check the weight classes though. Look at the weight classes.
Let me look at the weight classes
all over.
Hold on, let me see that. I didn't check that. Hold on, go back. Boom, Lorenzo Hunt. So let's take a look here. So weight class, we've got, where do we see it? So we go heavyweight champ, light heavyweight champ. What? And cruiserweight. Oh shoot!
Come on, dude. How can you? I mean, this is how like this guy is daring to be great every time he fights.
That is crazy. So he's a triple champ. He's a triple champ. That's wild. Okay, I want to also tee up a quick clip from the presser with Mike Perry because you know he's a legend on the mic. We're just gonna play a little clip. But man, we're so happy for Mike Perry. He's just killing it. He's killing life. Period.
He's just fucking. Man, Mike Perry is just so fucking awesome.
Okay, check it out.
I take him like a man. I keep coming forward and I hit back, and motherfuckers don't like it when Platinum hit back. So, you know, talk is cheap, but I talked before. I screamed before. The fans was cheering, right, for like exciting, adrenaline filled type stuff. But then I came out and they was like, damn, I'm not too sure what to think about that. And then I came out there and did what I did. And then I jumped on the mic and I had tons of energy left over for everybody else left in the building. So I'm smashing shit and I'm letting it be known, because why else do this? You know what I mean? Like, we fight, you know, I can be humble and, you know, have humility. I respect American Top Team. Obviously, they're one of the biggest, almost a monopoly as far as like having a gym and having fighters enter mixed martial arts. And to compete against them, you know, like they're big in South Florida and I'm a Central Florida guy. So we've been, you know, fighting against them for a long time. And you know, my hands are like, you know, I wore my Hublot tonight, low key, because Floyd Mayweather used to always wear Hublot on his shorts when he fought. And I'm a big boxing fan, and like, you know, I'm from Michigan, from Flint, Michigan. I was born there, and he's from Grand Rapids, and you know, I got the hands, bro.
He does, man. You can't argue with him.
You can't. And if you guys didn't get a chance to see a fight, we can't show the clips on here. But man, it was quick. It was first round.
50 seconds.
Yeah, he's so tough. And then he clocked him. It was they called it an uppercut on the broadcast, but when I watched the replay, I think it was a hook. It was a hook.
It looked like kind of almost like you know what it reminded me a lot of is the shot that landed on Jamal Hill. It wasn't a hook, it wasn't an uppercut, it was kind of like a shovel punch.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and it clocked him, and he just couldn't get his composure back. By the way, Western Mass Climber asked a question: are the BKFC wraps just to protect the wrist, or do they help protect the metacarpals as well?
So that's a great question. It's for both. So when we look at the BKFC wraps, all right, it goes around your wrist. Now it goes up to here. All right. So your metacarpals here, your knuckles are fully exposed. You need to be 1 inch off your knuckles. So the tape job goes from here. It cannot be over your knuckles. They need 1 inch behind your knuckles. I'm trying to angle it right with the camera.
Yeah.
So the wraps just go to here. Your knuckles are fully exposed, and then they're trying to keep everything tight in here. So when you talk about your hand and the power of your hand, you got your 2 power knuckles. These are stationary bones. Then you got these that kind of move around. All right. These are the ones that break a lot of times because these are your power. So when we hit, we want to be hitting with our power knuckles. And that, again, it's to keep this all tight so these don't move around. But inevitably, those power knuckles still break.
And how often do you think is it pretty common to break your hand in a bare knuckle BKFC fight? Is it like, 50%, 90%?
Dude, I mean, I tell you what, I am willing to bet. And when you say broken hand, you consider knuckles as well.
Yeah.
Over 50%.
Got it. Yeah, I bet.
I mean, because you hit one person in the top of the head, especially if you're putting pop behind it. That's why I talk about guys like Mike Perry and Lorenzo Hunt, because some people's bone structure is just different. And to be in the BKFC and to have as many fights and how much success you have, your bones just need to be different, man. I've broken my hands in 16-ounce gloves and 12-ounce gloves and 4-ounce gloves and 7-ounce gloves. These guys don't even have gloves on. They're still not breaking their hands. I don't think I'm sure Mike Perry has, but like, your bones just have to be built different to endure that kind of punishment.
Justin Gaethje, imagine him with that bone density. He probably go in and crack in BKFC. I don't think he ever, well, who knows? He might. Darren Till was offered a fight. Apparently, Mike Perry said he was offered $2 million and he refused because he wanted to fight with gloves. So I never knew you wanted to fight BKFC. I'm shocked because I feel like most MMA fighters are like, no, it's too much. But you say you want to do it. That's amazing.
The reason I want to do it isn't I want the check mark, dude. I did it all. I just want to say I did it all. I fought in the UFC. I fought in Bellator. I fought in the PFL. I want to fight in Ryzen. I want to fight in BKFC. So when people talk about the end of your life and your career, I checked off all the boxes. I tried everything. I did everything at the highest level.
All right. Well, if you fight in BKFC, I'm coming and I'm sitting like as close to front row as I can get. So, dude, wow, that's crazy. All right. Well, anyways, Mike Perry, man, BKFC is on fire. And not only are they on fire with Mike Perry, because Mike Perry is just, dude, he's their Conor McGregor. He is propelling that brand. I mean, it is unbelievable. So happy for Mike Perry, man. He's such a legend. But speaking of Conor McGregor, holy smokes. What crazy news, man. He has become part owner of BKFC. Now, Jesse on Fire did a video on this yesterday, which was very interesting. And this was his position on it. Obviously, Conor McGregor, you got Mike Perry, you got Conor McGregor becoming part owner. It's on a rocket ship. It's done. And now that you've explained the nuances between bare knuckle boxing versus traditional boxing, it makes all the sense in the world that this sport is going to be huge. Do I think it's going to be as big as MMA? I actually don't, only because MMA is the closest thing to a real fight. And I think there's something to that you're just like, hey, it's mano a mano, anything goes. Obviously there's some rules, but it's pretty much a street fight. So I just think there's always going to be some greater appeal there. But bare knuckle boxing could be right there as a second place. But here's the interesting thing that I wanted to throw out to you, right? If when Conor has now purchased a part of the BKFC, what Jesse posits in his video is that this was done in collaboration, potentially, not, he's again just theorizing, with the UFC signing off on it, meaning they just negotiated a new contract, probably, again, this is all theoretical, with Conor. And then right after they sign him to fight at UFC 303 or whatever, now he announces that he's part owner of BKFC. So my question to you is this. Conor is such a powerful brand in and of himself, obviously. For him to be a part owner of BKFC, do you think this was something that the UFC has authorized him to do and maybe even behind the scenes are semi-involved in, or do you think this has nothing to do with UFC?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. And that's a great question, because here's the thing. Now, if Conor McGregor was talking about competing in the BKFC, I could see the UFC having an issue with that. But why prevent him from owning something? Like, can he go own a McDonald's? Can he own an MMA gym? Can he own his own separate entity of MMA, like his own promotion, like Game Bread or something like that? I don't, I think this is just Conor McGregor looking out for Conor McGregor. This guy's worth $100 million, dude. He isn't looking, for money anymore. He's talking about generational wealth. He wants his kids taken care of. He wants his kids taken care of. He sees BKFC right now. I mean, this is just like getting at Bitcoin when it was, $1,000 a coin. I honestly think he sees it as a good long-term investment, because I tell you what, BKFC a lot of times is more exciting to me than UFC, because you got these guys that are just like Mike Perry that don't give a fuck. Thiago Alves, man, he don't give a fuck. He's going to go in there and he's going to sling. Lorenzo Hunt. These guys are trying to hurt people. I think a lot of guys, like you look at the UFC, You know, you got some boring. There's no boring champions in BKFC. You know what I mean? Everyone's bleeding, everyone's breaking. Now you look at like Bilal Muhammad, on the other hand. Nobody cares to see him fight. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he's a great, I mean, I know he's a great fighter, but he's boring. Like, he doesn't finish guys, he doesn't knock guys out. Like, when Bilal's on, I don't watch the card. And again, it's not personal. It's not like I don't hate the guy. I just think I just don't care to watch it. Now you take any BKFC fighter, and that's going to be an exciting fight. So I think for a casual fan that's looking for a street scrap, you know, when I go to Montana and I was cornering in BKFC when I was in Great Falls, Montana, it was packed. Like, the BKFC event was fucking packed. And I mean, these, you know, some guys, you know, out in the Midwest, they don't really understand the grappling or the wrestling part of it, but they want to see a bloody fight. And, you know, that's where BKFC really gets, it can get those fans that aren't interested in the grappling. They want to see the blood. They want to see the damage. And like I said, I think investing in BKFC like Conor's doing is like investing in Bitcoin when it was $1,000, 500 a coin.
Wow, this is so crazy. Yeah, I think the main concern, I guess, that the UFC potentially would have, I don't know, like, and they're not exactly competitors, but I suppose they could be. They're both combat sports. But it does. The other reason why Jesse kind of made this potential assumption is because Dave Feldman seems to have actually a good relationship with Dana White. They've been photographed together. I think they've been out together, probably maybe talking about potential partial ownership. Who knows, right? With the UFC buying shares of BKFC, I don't know. But it does seem like, hey, especially getting Conor behind BKFC, man, that's going to add so much more fuel to the fire. So anyway, it's just a very interesting development. But mad kudos to Conor McGregor, right? Like you said, he's getting into this organization as it's on the rise, as it's on the come, especially with a guy like Mike Perry. Man, like, it just worked out perfectly. Dude, it couldn't have worked out better. BKFC bet on a guy with a lot of hype and a lot of steam and a lot of fanfare from the UFC, and for him to go in and do what he's doing, the fact that he's excelled, now he's undefeated, and he beat a former champ, man, they hit the jackpot. So congratulations to them. And Joseph, if you do fight BKFC, holy smokes. All right, so keep me posted on that. All right, now we're going to move on to the next story, and this is pretty cool because, and by the way, we should put a little asterisk here. This is still a rumor, but I want to tell you two places where I heard this rumor. Maybe I'll tell you one that was on YouTube. Another one was just a friend of ours telling us that they heard the rumor too. But the main place where I heard it is Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping said supposedly the rumor's out there that this fight is signed. Not only is it signed, this is so crazy, man. It's supposedly gonna be on UFC 303, which is International Fight Week with Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. So holy smokes. Now, if this happens, if this is true, this is going to make that presser out of control. Imagine, I mean, dude, what's it going to be like? Imagine those two are going to be going at each other. Conor's going to be there. Conor's going to probably throw some jabs. I mean, it's going to be the greatest press conference of all time, potentially.
I agree. And you know what would be a really cool thing that, like, both being from Ireland, I believe Ian Garry's from Ireland as well.
Yes.
So what if Ian Garry and Conor McGregor like team up, and like Ian starts throwing shade at Michael, and then Conor starts throwing shade, and they come together as, hey, we're the two baddest Irish motherfuckers. And now you have all this trash talking. Colby, man, he's easy pickings. He hasn't, like I said, his lackluster fighting style, his lackluster win to loss ratio. I mean, they're serving him up on a platter to get chewed apart by Conor McGregor and Ian Garry. Ian Garry's going to start it, but you know Conor McGregor's not going to be quiet about Colby Covington. I mean, you know he's not. And, you know, I wonder if they're going to collaborate. You know, Ian Garry and Conor are going to collaborate to come together. Like, let's roast this fucking chump, dude. He fucking sucks. He's overpassed his time. He's one-dimensional. Let's fucking make this guy want to kill himself before the fight.
And you know what's crazy too? Like, they're gonna go at him, and you know how Colby kind of like scripts his stuff and writes it out ahead of time. He's probably gonna have some crazy stuff because he's not afraid. I mean, he said some crazy stuff to Leon Edwards. He's not afraid to say anything. I don't think it's going to get as dark as the Khabib Conor conference back in the day, but I think it's going to get pretty insane. It's going to get pretty nasty. Hopefully it'll be above that line of where you're like, oh, this is a little too much. I don't think it's going to get that bad, but dude, it's going to be wild. All right. So this 303 fight, by the way, Jesse said he on one of his videos yesterday that the tickets that he got for UFC, 300. Okay. He said if he tried to buy the exact same seats for UFC 303 where Conor's fighting, the price is more than doubled. So for 2 tickets, he said he spent $4 grand, okay, for UFC 3. I'm not repeating like private information. This is stuff that he posts on YouTube. So $4 grand, and then for the same prices, he said it would be almost $9,000. And these I don't even think these are on the floor. I think these are at the edge, like right the front row of the right before you hit the floor. That's insane. But now, you know, adding this fight, this is going to be such a good card. It's going to be incredible. All right. By the way, I want to move on. Wait, let me see. We got a couple comments here. Salim picking Dustin or Islam, and oh wow, 303 is going to be nuts. Yeah, it's going to be wild. Oh, yeah. So I think we've already talked about who we pick in the matchup between Colby and Ian Garry. I think we're both sticking with Ian Garry. I think it's his time to shine, and it's his time to go at Colby and win some fans back, because he still, I think, gets booed and gets hated by a lot of people for why, I don't know, but yeah, maybe he can be a little bit strong in some interviews and that's turned some people off. But hey, man, he's a hell of a fighter, a young guy on the come up. So we wish you the best, and let's see what goes down on this fight. We hope this is true. We hope the rumor is confirmed and you guys are actually fighting. All right. Last but not least, if you guys didn't have a chance to check this out, last Friday, Max Holloway made an appearance on Rogan. I listened to the entire interview, and man, it's so dope. So if you guys have been following Max throughout his entire career, by the way, he's only 32, but he got into the UFC, if I'm not mistaken, at 20. So he's been in there for a very long time. He was a super young champ. And to see what he did, obviously, in UFC 300, I think blew a lot of people away. They talk about on the Rogan, I got a little clip that I want to show you guys, where they talk about a lot of people thinking he's washed up, he's done, which is crazy. He's still so young, and he actually looks even better than he's ever looked. But that's the perception a lot of times in the UFC. He lost a couple times to Alex, this and that. Maybe one of those could have gone the other way. So, but either way, let's say he lost 2 to Alex, and a lot of people were counting him out. So he's talking about his mindset and how a lot of these things work. But one of the coolest things about Max, if you listen to the interview, some people say, hey, him and Alex are nemesis. Maybe they don't like each other. He's not like that. He's like, nah, man. He's like, I actually like the guy. I have a ton of respect for him. He's an amazing father, and I wish him the best of luck. Talks about what he thinks he should have done in terms of waiting out to let his concussion heal, like genuinely looking out for the guy. And it's super, super cool when you have a fighter that doesn't talk a lot of smack, and it's just his true, authentic self, and people just gravitate towards him without any of the drama and any of the nonsense. But anyways, I want to play this clip for you, and then I want to turn it over to you and get your thoughts on the type of guy that Max Holloway is, and who we've all come to know over the years. So let's check this out. Boom. Let's go.
I don't get it.
I heard the noise.
I heard it. I heard the noise. I'm like, listen, he's only 32.
Yeah.
Right? 32, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's only 32. That's athletic prime. I'm like, there's no beatings, there's no knockouts, there's no decline in the of skills inside the octagon. Everything looks the same and better every fight.
You know what the problem is? The problem is that I got these guys got to see me grow up. You know, I got in the UFC when I was 20
years old, and a
lot of people think I'm DC's old ass, like 42 years old or something. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, brother, I'm not DC. I've been calling out DC, but I'm a young guy. You know, just because I've been harassing his potato looking butt, like, come on, his bag of potato looking ass.
You two together are hilarious,
brother. I love that guy. I love that guy. I love that man.
Like, he's the best.
A lot of guys just think I'm old because I've been fighting since I was 20, and then it wasn't, and it's not like I've been fighting 20. I've been fighting since I was 20, and I fought a who's who in my division. You know,
best
the
in
top
the
guys,
world since you were 20 years old, just past teenager.
Yeah, so like, especially with the with the Volk fights, it's like the first 2 fights was all right, and the third fight is what made everybody go, oh, he's done for. I'm like, brother, like, that was his Volk's night. He was on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. Everybody's like, oh yeah, look at Max. He Volk just did this, and now they're doing MMA math because Ilya did that to Volk, and even with Ilya doing MMA math, I beat a guy that beat you. I'm like, brother, this is not how it works. I lost to Dustin. Dustin just got knocked out from Justin, and now can I say I beat Dustin now? No, it's like
doesn't work that way.
Yeah, styles make fights. So
it's also what happens in camp. What kind of condition are you coming into the fight in? Are you fighting injured?
Okay, so I'm going to stop this now. And so just another thing to tack on, one of the things that Max Holloway talks about, he has never in the history of his entire fight career come on after the fact and be like, well, this happened and I was injured and blah, blah, blah. Not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with that, because if it's the truth, it's the truth. But What does that say to you about the type of guy he is in the fighter community, that he kind of, he sticks by these fundamental principles? He's got his code of honor. What are your thoughts on Max Holloway?
Listen, I've been around this fight game for a long, long time. I've been around UFC caliber fighters literally my whole career. My college roommate, Darren Cruikshank, was in the UFC. I moved to Coutures in 2009. Something about Max that's different from every fighter I've ever met is I've never heard one guy, not one, say a single bad word about him. There's that speaks volumes to me. I don't know him personally, but everybody has an issue. If you talk to 100 people, there are probably 20 of them, maybe more, are going to say something bad about me. Same with you. Not everybody always has this great persona of who you are. Maybe they met you once, you didn't vibe with them. But I tell you what, I've never heard a manager, a coach, a fighter, an opponent, an ex-opponent ever say anything bad about the guy. The guy's character he's humble. He's an incredible fighter. He can turn it on in the fights. I mean, do you remember when he was fighting Brian Ortega? He was actually telling Brian how to block his punches. Hey, brother, put your hand up when I do this. And, he's just an incredible fighter. He's a great entertainer. He's a family man. He's a guy that, you see these young kids up and coming, especially in like Hawaii, because the Hawaiians, man, they have so many great fighters, Boston Selman, Brad Tavares, Kai Kamaka, Max Holloway, and they're studs. We got a bunch of Hawaiian fighters coming up through the gym. Like, this is a guy that you want to emulate. This is a guy that busts his ass. This is a guy that puts all his hard work into the gym. He still smiles. He's not an asshole. He's not arrogant. This is a guy you guys want to look up to and want to emulate as you get more involved in fighting and possibly into the UFC.
Now, the other thing that he does seem to have is this mindset, the way he looks at victories and losses. He talks about it later in the show that he just doesn't let those losses get him down. He's like, hey, that's just the game. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And which is also part of the reason why he threw caution to the wind and allowed Justin to come in the center. And he was willing to trade with him at all, at his own peril and throw away a fight that he had in the bag. And it's like, what do you make of that? That's got to be a super rare thing. I don't think I had the guts to do that. No way. If I got it in the bag, I'm about to be BMF champ. How rare is that mindset, and how do you think that affects it or impacts him as as a fighter?
Well, here's the thing, and he said something after, because he was obviously questioned. Every podcast he's been on has asked him this, and he had the best, most genuine answer. And I believe this is true. Between athletes, between fighters, especially at that high of a level, we have, a lot of us have this. It's a mutual respect, but it's almost like a code. You know what I mean? Like Max said in the interview, and I'm sure you heard it. He goes, Justin would have done the same thing for me. If Justin beat my ass for 4 rounds or won 4 rounds in a row, I know for a fact that he would have done the exact same thing for me. So I gave it for him too. And that's just respect, dude. We got 2 of the best lightweights coming out, and featherweight and lightweight coming out, 2 former champs. You know what? Hey, I have respect for you. I'm going to give him one last chance to clip me. And fortunately for him, it went his way and he clipped Justin before Justin clipped him. But that just goes to show the level of maturity, the level of respect that these fighters have for each other. And, I know everyone talks shit at the end of the day. And, Justin lifted his towel and stuff. And people are like, oh, well, that's what he gets for doing that. It's like, dude, these guys are buddies, man. These guys will go drink together. They'll hang out together, man. What fans don't understand is we're putting our life on the line every time. We're not like this big, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. If you and I were fighting, we can talk shit now, but after the fight, dude, we're going to be fucking hanging out. You know what I mean? And that's, I believe, how Max and Justin were. And like I said, I reiterate how he said in an interview, he goes, Justin would have gave me that opportunity to win, even if he had it sealed up. So I figured I should give him the same opportunity.
It's like when moments like this happen, it makes the sport, especially when you get to, and then look, I've heard Max in a million press conferences, always liked him, but then it's just like you hear this deep dive into his personality, his approach to the game. And it also gives me, like I've always told you, listening to fighters gives me the most inspiration out of anything on this planet, in my struggles, in my business, whatever I'm dealing with. And so I listened to this entire interview and man, it just makes you root for him so much. He's just like a people's champ. And that makes the sport so exciting. I am so eager to see Ilya continue to climb, and I wanted to see him go on and tear and be one of the most dominant champs. But I gotta say, with the momentum that Max has now, what an amazing showing, and you really you deep dive in to see what a fantastic human being he is. I mean, like, we just want to. I just think everybody on the planet now wants to see Max come back and beat Ilya, and take it as far as he can go, just dominate. And then bow out like just a G, comes back, claims that title, goes up, challenges Islam. Let's see what he can do. And that makes this sport just so exciting to go on that journey with him. Maybe even fight Conor. I don't know. He did talk about that as a potential possibility. And that's one thing he did say. He's like, if you could script it out, what would it be? That's what he said. Go back, fight Ilya, maybe fight Conor if there are opportunities there, depending on what happens. And then he said he would like to move up and challenge for 155. So he's got some big plans and big dreams. And yeah, man. Whoo, this sport is on fire. As much as BKFC is on fire, no, MMA, UFC, it's unreal right now. Unbelievable right now. So anyways, that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for joining. We got our hardcore fans that keep showing up. Salim, Western Mass Climber, thank you guys so much, keeping the chat alive. And we will be back on Friday. We're going to chop it up about UFC 301 in Brazil, coming up with the return of Jose Aldo. We're definitely going to talk about him and see what everybody looks like after weigh-ins. So guys, thank you guys so much for joining. Justin, thank you. And we will see you guys next time. Take it easy.